Breaking tonight, General Wesley Clark is with us live for his first interview since he ignited a major controversy yesterday by questioning the relevance of John McCain's military service as a POW in Vietnam. The question, how significant is it in this campaign? The McCain camp jumped on the comments by Clark, who's now an Obama supporter, linking them to Obama's campaign, saying, quote, Obama's words don't really match up with the way he's running the campaign. Joining me now is General Wesley Clark. General Clark, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Now, you've set off quite a firestorm here with both McCain and Obama coming out and rejecting your comments. First, let me play the comments at issue from CBS yesterday.
I certainly honor his service as a prisoner of war. He was a hero to me and to hundreds of thousands and millions of others in the armed forces as a prisoner of war. He has been a voice on the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he has traveled all over the world, but he hasn't held executive responsibility. That large squadron in the Navy that he commanded, it wasn't a wartime squadron. He hasn't been there and ordered the bombs to fall. He hasn't seen what it's like when diplomats come in and say, I don't know whether we're going to be able to get this point through or not. Do you want to take the risk? What about your reputation? How do we handle it publicly? He hasn't made those calls.
Well, General, maybe could I just interrupt you? If you're,
sure.
I have to say, Barack Obama has not had any of those experiences either, nor has he ridden in a fighter plane and gotten shot down. I mean,
well, I don't think riding in a fighter plane and getting shot down is a qualification to be president.
All right, that's the one that ended up being the real zinger, General. And as a result, a lot of response here. Admiral Leighton Smith has said General Clark is way off base on this one. Lieutenant Commander Carl Smith says it reflects, quote, extremely bad judgment. Senator Warner saying he was shocked. Former Reagan National Security Advisor Robert McFarland saying it may be part of a larger gambit. Bob Dole says you should have stayed in bed on Sunday. What's your response?
Well, first of all, Dan, thanks for having me on. I don't want to do anything to take away from this very important week where Barack Obama, the man I support to be president, is talking about patriotism and service. But I do appreciate the chance to be on. Now, I wasn't representing the Obama campaign in anything I said yesterday about John McCain. Those are comments I've said for some weeks now. They've been repeated many times. I think I once previously on your show, perhaps. But I have said them on many occasions, and I think it's an important point that we understand that this is an issue about the qualifications to be president. National security is going to be a very important element of this campaign, and people are going to be asking who can best protect America. But I want to assure you, I would never, never diss someone's service. When people choose to serve in uniform, I honor it. And Dan, I came home from Vietnam on a stretcher. I was shot. I took a burst of AK. I got 4 rounds. I was in 3 different hospitals and finally got home and eventually recovered and went on to serve. So I think I know a little bit about what it's like to honor men and women who serve in uniform. And I do, and I would never dismiss somebody. So I think, you know, there's a lot of tempest here, but I think we need to get on with the major issues of the campaign. I think we need to listen to Barack Obama as he defines patriotism and talks about the big issues facing this country.
You mentioned that you said it before. We'd actually gone back to see if you'd said it on our show before. I think that the part that has really gotten people, which I don't think you have said before, was the part about riding in a fighter plane and getting shot down effectively is not a qualification for president. I think that's the line that has been the most controversial. Are you sorry you said it?
It's a great line. I didn't make it up. It was given to me by the interviewer. And I don't think it's a great line in terms of conveying. It's too bad that I wish people hadn't misinterpreted that and lost sight of the important point. But I think, you know, we need to get on to the important point here about what are the qualifications to be president. Serving the armed forces is a great thing. It's a great gift to the country, and it shows commitment. And particularly if you're in combat, it can show courage, and John McCain showed all of that. On the other hand, it depends on what your position was in the armed forces and what you did there as to how relevant that service is to the strategic decision-making that is the essence of protecting the United States as president. And that was the point I was making.
Does it show anything, though, about John McCain's character, that he had the opportunity to leave and he didn't, that he gave of himself for his country and refused to go home when he had an opportunity?
Well, I honor John McCain's character. As I said in the show, he's been one of my heroes for a long time. I like John McCain. He's been over to my house and everything. This is about qualifications to be president. That's what this is about. And, by the way, it's also a little bit about the nature of American politics today, that a comment like this could be taken out of context the way it was and create such a hullabaloo. I think we ought to get back to the campaign.
Well,
but I want to make clear where I stand on honoring men and women, and I don't care what their politics are, honoring men and women who serve our country, and I do.
Let me read you from Bill Burton, the Obama campaign spokesperson. As he said many times before, Senator Obama honors and respects Senator McCain's service, and of course he rejects yesterday's statement by General Clark.
Well, I agree with Senator Obama. I honor and respect John McCain's service as well, and I think language of this type is, and this kind of a discussion really shouldn't be part of a campaign.
So do you reject the statements of General Clark?
I reject the idea that you take something like this and swift boat it all out of proportion, which is exactly what happened. In fact, Dan, just as a sidelight, you might know that one of the people who organized the conference call for McCain with the reporters is one of the people who was very active in the swift boating campaign against John Kerry. So what you've got here is a political gambit. It's a tactic by the McCain campaign.
But it's the
and it obscures the real issues of this election, which is which candidate is better qualified, which candidate has the judgment to be president of the United States.
Look, I think that's a fair point, that in terms of the big issues in this campaign, this is not going to be one of them. But when you have the campaign spokesperson for the Obama camp coming out and rejecting your statements, that says something, doesn't it?
Well, I think it says, first of all, I wasn't representing any part of the Obama campaign in that discussion of John McCain. I want to make that perfectly clear. That's something I've been saying for weeks. Before Obama clinched the nomination, I was still saying that, or I was beginning to say that then. I've said this about John McCain's qualifications for a long time. I've been in war. I've commanded at the strategic level as well as having commanded at the tactical level. I've paid the personal price in bloodshed, and I know what it's like to order men and women into combat and to pray for innocent people that they won't be hurt. And so what I'm suggesting is that there's a difference in the two levels of war and the levels of responsibility. And you can honor a person's service, but still ask, okay, what's the real weight of that service in terms of qualifications for judgment that's required in the office of the Commander-in-Chief?
Well, let me ask you that. Is there anything about John McCain's service that you think is relevant in his effort to become president of the United States?
Absolutely. I think anybody who serves in uniform, who serves their country, especially in wartime, who has gone through the kind of privations and hardships of John McCain, should be honored for his character and courage, and I certainly do.
But you say honored for their character and courage, and yet when I'm asking you specifically about, do you think that it's relevant in his effort to become president, yes or no? Do you think that that is a qualification that gives John McCain an edge on that particular issue?
I think people look for character and courage in their presidents, but I don't think you have to have been at war to show character and courage. I think you can find character and courage in other candidates. I think you can find them in Barack Obama's life, for example. So I think that, you know, the voters have to make their own minds up on what constitutes the essential elements of character and courage. But here we're talking about how experience leads to judgment. And I think on that issue, that's what I think has to be clarified, because where it leads to national security experience, and we're talking about keeping America safe, the American people are going to have to make a judgment. Which candidate has the judgment, the best judgment, to keep America safe in a troubled world?
So I've got to ask you, though, this follow-up question, though. Do you stand by your comment that you don't think riding in a fighter plane and getting shot down is a qualification for president? Do you stand by that?
I stand by the comment that when you talk about someone's wartime experience, you have to put that in the context of the level of their service, what that service consisted of, and how it matches up to the requirements of the job of the presidency of the United States.
So does that mean, again, that you don't think riding in a fighter plane and getting shot down is a qualification for president?
I think it's an incredible testimony to John McCain's courage that he endured the privations and hardships he did. And I think that the American people have always been impressed by that, as I have been impressed by that. But I'm supporting Barack Obama. I think he has judgment, I think he has character, and I do think he has courage. I think he'd be a great commander-in-chief, despite the fact that he didn't serve. I think he is a patriot in the truest sense of the word.